Today I'm going to talk about Rudy Giuliani. For those of you who don't know, he's the lawyer representing Donald Trump in the election fraud scandal. I listened to his press conference, and to be honest with you, I think he made a few good points, and I want to acknowledge that. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think he's a scumbag and he's a liar, but I want to play what he has to say. Before I play what he has to say, let's hear what Mike Pence has to say on the subject.
Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. And while I made my case to him of what I understood my oath of the Constitution to require, the president ultimately continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution. I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again.
I'm sure when Pence was talking about crackpot lawyers, he was including Rudy Giuliani in this. And I have to say, I have a lot of admiration for Pence for what he did on January 6th, even though I'm completely against everything else he stands for. I hope you're not getting bored, but before I play the press conference on the election fraud by Rudy Giuliani, I think it's important to show you what Rusty Bowers had to say about him. He is the Arizona Speaker of the House.
Is it fair to say that you wanted Donald Trump to win a second term in office? Please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say and how did that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence.
So now that I've established the fact that Rudy Giuliani is a lying scumbag, let's hear what he has to say.
The only surprise I would have found in this is if Philadelphia hadn't cheated in this election, because for the last 60 years, they've cheated in just about every single election. You could say the same thing about Detroit.
So for the past 60 years, he's claiming that Philadelphia and Detroit have been cheating in these elections, yet he's just now starting to talk about it and call it to our attention and do something about it. I wonder why. Do you think this might have something to do with it?
It was a mail ballot. Mail ballots are particularly prone to fraud.
It's true that mail-in ballots are more prone to fraud, but it's also the way that the military has voted whenever they're deployed. Also, people who are in nursing homes and in hospitals vote by mail-in ballots.
You're going to tell me that 60 people are lying? They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury, which is something no Democrat's ever done.
Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witness answered in the affirmative.
President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others claimed on the basis of this video that you and your mother were somehow involved in a plot to kick out observers, bring suitcases of false ballots for Biden into the arena, and then run them through the machines multiple times. None of that was true, was it?
None of it.
I'd like to show you some of the statements that Rudy Giuliani made in a second hearing before the Georgia state legislators, a week after that video clip from State Farm Arena was first circulated by Mr. Giuliani and President Trump. I want to advise viewers that these statements are completely false and also deeply disturbing.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously, surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
As far as I'm concerned, Ruby Freeman and Shane Moss are heroes.
Because you knew you were going to use those ballots to catch Biden up. And you had a big road ahead of you. You had to catch him up for 700,000 to 800,000 votes that he was behind. And the only way you were going to do it was with the mail-in ballots.
Just because Biden was able to catch up with the mail-in ballots does not prove fraud. It makes sense to me because most of the people who voted for Biden were worried about COVID at the time, so they chose to send in a mail-in ballot. Most of the people who voted for Trump were not as worried about COVID, so they went to the polling place. And because Trump kept preaching about election fraud, and they were worried about it.
So that takes us to Michigan, where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating.
He calls this lady an honest Democrat, but later he says he doesn't know if she's a Republican or Democrat.
I don't know if she's a Democrat or Republican. I assume if she's working for the city of Detroit, that she's a Democrat.
I would assume this lady is a Republican because at the end of her testimony, she made a really big deal about being Catholic, and usually Catholics tend to be Republicans.
I'm a devoted Catholic, and
Show you her affidavit because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence, that we have no specific acts of fraud. That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself.
Now, right here, I think he's making a good point. It's not fair to say there's no evidence of corruption. It's more accurate to say there's insufficient evidence.
I can't give you all these affidavits because if I do, these people will be harassed, they'll be threatened, they may lose their job.
There were a lot of election workers that were harassed, threatened because of the lies that were spread by Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump.
Moss, I understand that people once showed up at your grandmother's house. Tell us about that experience.
She called me screaming at the top of her lungs, like, Shay, oh my God, Shay, just freaking me out, saying that there were people at her home and they knocked on the door, and of course she opened it and seeing who was there, who it was, and they just started pushing their way through, claiming that they were coming in to make a citizen's arrest. They needed to find me and my mom. They knew we were there. And she was just screaming and didn't know what to do. And I wasn't at night. People would just continuously send pizzas over and over to her home, and they were expecting her to pay for these large amounts of pizzas. And
one of the things that I find most disturbing is how these lies discourage longtime election workers from continuing to do this important work. Tell us, if you would, of the other election workers shown in that State Farm Arena video and their supervisors. How many are still election workers in Fulton County?
There is no permanent election worker or supervisor in that video that's still there.
I witnessed election workers and employees going over to the voting booths with voters in order to watch them vote and coach them for whom to vote.
It's ridiculous to me to believe that somebody went up there saying, oh, I'm here to vote for Trump, keep America great, and then somebody coached them into voting for Biden. Like, what exactly did this person say to them? Hey, come on, vote for Biden, change your mind. Don't vote for Trump, vote for Biden. Well, I was going to vote for Trump, but because this person's coaching me, yeah, I'll vote for Biden. Now, I watched Jessie Jacob give her testimony with an open mind, and I have to admit, she sounded like a credible witness to me. I believe she's telling the truth. I don't really believe anyone was influenced by coaching efforts, but I believe she saw something that did disturb her, and no one asked her, what exactly did these people say to them to coach them? And she did say a lot of things in her testimony that caused me a lot of concern. But so far, I still don't see sufficient evidence to claim that Trump actually won the election or that he got more votes than Biden.
I was instructed not to look at any of the signatures on the absentee ballots. If she was instructed not to look for any of the signatures on the absentee ballots, why the heck do you sign it in the first place?
Now, right here, I think he's making a good point. There's no point in signing the ballot if you're not going to check the signature to begin with. I'm going to end the video right here. I was planning on making it longer, but I want to keep it under 10 minutes. Let me know if you want me to continue or not. Later.